The big checks are coming out this week with the Players Championship down at TPC Sawgrass. They're going to be giving away a whole lot of money to whoever wins this weekend. We're going to break things down from a PGA DFS perspective with some big contests up in the lobby and a really good field in store for this week. We'll break it down and get you set to try to win some money over on FanDuel.com. Welcome on into the Heat Check Fantasy Podcast, powered by numberFire. That's right here on the FanDuel Podcast Network and numberFire.com. My name is Jim Sonis. I am a senior writer and analyst for numberFire.com. Joined here, as always, by Brandon Gandula. He is the managing editor of numberFire.com. Brandon, the Players is on tap for this week. So how are you doing today?
I mean, it's the Players. How can I not be doing great? You know?
I mean,
easy question.
I think that there are a lot of ways. You know, there's lots of stuff going on in the world. I don't know. Like, I don't know your life. I don't pretend to know you.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Well, now that you put it that way.
Well, no, I didn't mean it like that. I didn't mean like that to bring the vibe down. But like, maybe you were not in on not feeling the Scottie Scheffler vibes last week. Maybe you had a head-to-head bet on Sung J M or Matt Fitzpatrick. I don't know. Hypothetically, I don't know what's going on.
Why would I not be feeling the Scottie Scheffler vibes whenever he was a win pick
on the podcast? Yeah.
He was a gym win pick too, where I didn't really like him from a DFS standpoint because the salary was up there, but the odds were still pretty decent.
Mm-hmm.
So I pulled a gym and I said Scottie Scheffler 19-1. Someone I didn't talk about a lot from a FanDuel standpoint, but who made a lot of sense. I was honestly a coin flip. I'm pretty sure I said this. I think it was like a coin flip between Scheffler and Hovland for the win pick segment. Hovland being 16-1, Scheffler 19, and I went Scheffler, and worked out.
Technically, you didn't pull a gym because you got your win pick right. So I would beg to differ on that, but I think that what that means is we're well positioned to try to win some money this week for the Players Championship, and there is a lot of money to be won. A lot of good markets over at FanDuel Sportsbook, and a lot of good contests over on FanDuel.com. Our job for today is to break down TPC Sawgrass, the stadium course, break down our thoughts on what you got to do to win there, favorite options in each salary tier, roster construction, and much more. But as you're playing along, head over to FanDuel.com and check out this week's Eagle contest, because for the Players at TPC Sawgrass over on FanDuel, you can create your best 6-player roster and follow along as the tournament unfolds as some of the best players in the world showcase their talent. Head over to FanDuel.com today and start building your PGA Eagle lineup. Details on that are not directly in front of me, but let me pull up the contest right now and let you know some details on the Eagle. I'm slow over here. I didn't do this beforehand. Anyway, Eagle is $300,000 in total prizes. And of that, pulling up the prize pool, $100K going to first place. So you can turn, what is the entry fee? Really good stuff here. Really good stuff.
I would have helped if I had any.
Entry fee is $7.77. Again, $100K to first place, $300,000 in total prizes. Just go look for yourself. FanDuel.com. It's in the lobby. You know what to do. You're better at this than I am.
It's a good. That would be a good read. FanDuel.com. Check it out. See what you see.
Next week, you're gonna see black. FanDuel's gonna make you put black tape over the logos. We don't want to be associated with this guy anymore. So if you tune in next week and the background looks a little bit different, just don't be surprised. That's the way I'll phrase that here. So let's talk here about TPC Sawgrass Stadium course. It is 7,256 yards and a par 72. And if you're looking back at past history here, you'll remember that back in 2020, they played one round at this event before it was canceled due to COVID-19. So you get a round of data, at least. If you want to look at that, you can. There are some guys who played pretty well for that one round. Didn't get to finish it off, but you can look at that. So some funky course history there. There are 144 golfers in the field, and the regular cut rules apply. Top 65 plus ties make the cut after the first 2 rounds. So, Brandon, we know what to expect at TPC Sawgrass. We've been here a lot of times. We've had good golfers here, so we kind of know what to expect. What should we expect at TPC Sawgrass for this weekend?
Yeah. I know what we should expect, but just why don't you tell us what we should expect?
Yeah, I know, but for the people who don't know, let them know.
So one thing before I dig in, it's worth noting that this event had played in May for a decade. And it's back to March, obviously, if you subscribe to the calendar that the world operates on. But with the move back to March, we see this course play tougher. So a lot of the sample you're probably digging into with past results at TPC Sawgrass and what stats matter, a lot of it's going to be based on performance in May. So it's a little bit hard to adjust for that. However, I'm sure most people who are listening know Justin Ray at Justin Ray Golf on Twitter. He's got all of the stats. I'm always envious of the stats he has, but he has a piece up on PGAtour.com talking about how this course plays differently in March and May. And the TLDR is basically that it's more of a ball striking course in March. It's a little softer in terms of scoring in May. And you see, since we've had this back in March, the two winners have been Rory McIlroy and Justin Thomas, who are both shorter than 20-1 to win in each of those years. We see a little bit more of the long shots back when this was in May. So just keep that in mind. I'm going to kind of treat this more as a major because I expect it to play a little bit tougher for this week. But with all that out of the way, I think it was important to discuss because it's, you don't want to be looking only at May performance here. But for the course itself, it's a little bit short for a par 72. And it's just honestly tough all around. Data Golf ranks TPC Sawgrass inside the top 15 in the most difficult courses out of 74 on their course table page. So it's difficult. Top 15 difficulty in strokes gained off the tee, strokes gained approach, strokes gained around the green, and strokes gained putting, which is all four of them. All four of the strokes gained stats. So it's tough, and it should play tough, especially with this back in March. You don't really want to miss the fairways, so you'll probably see a lot of driving accuracy talk this week, and I don't think it's wrong. I think that strokes gained off the tee makes a little bit more sense for this week because just accuracy alone is never enough. I have some more detailed notes on past finishes for where guys have finished inside the top 10 and where they finish in terms of driving distance and driving accuracy. But I think I'm going to go strokes gained off the tee here over driving accuracy. I'm always interested to hear what your process brings you to with the driving stats. But greens regulation rates are about as average as could be. However, again, going back to Data Golf, it's the 7th most difficult course to pick up strokes gained from approach. And the reason for that is because there's water lurking everywhere. Water's in play on 17 holes. Only Harbor Town best that with all 18. You can get, you'll see penalties. We're going to see volatility. If you look back, you'll see some big names miss the cut just because it's how this works. Some bad bounces, things like that. So difficult course where we need irons, we need driving, and we need just all around play. So my key stats for this week are strokes gained approach, strokes gained off the tee, strokes gained around the green, birdie or better rate, and actually a little bit of course history because it is pretty predictive here.
Yeah. Going back to the driving discussion. So looking back at last year, looking at where golfers who finished inside the top 15 ranked for the full year on the PGA Tour in various stats, their average rank for driving distance was 72nd, average rank for accuracy 81st, average rank for good drive rate is 68th, average rank for strokes gained off the tee is 42nd. So like a massive, massive gap between off the tee play, like strokes gained off the tee, and every like individualized off the tee stat. So good drive rate was better than the other ones, but off the tee play overall was far and away the best. That's why I went as well with strokes gained off the tee. Like I think that one way, if you were to make like an alteration, could be like a Matt Fitzpatrick type. If guys gain strokes off the tee without being long, I think that is more valuable this week than usual. But if you're looking for like one stat, I would say just going with strokes gained off the tee is going to lead you the right way more often than not.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost always the best stat to go with. Yeah. I make this joke sometimes, but like whenever you see a course where people recommend driving accuracy, you can't sort the field by highest percentage of fairways hit because there's a lot more that goes into it. Whereas with distance, at least, if you sort it by the longest hitters, like that's actually much more of like a viable approach. But all that said, I always get a little bit wary whenever accuracy pops up, because you can often see the best golfers get dinged too much, the longer hitters, because they're not always trying to club down, hit fairways. That doesn't mean they can't do it.
Right.
And of
like
course,
it's a worthwhile trade-off for them to get the extra distance, maybe not get a fairway gain there, like be in the rough a bit.
that, or we're looking at data from courses where it doesn't matter if they miss a fairway.
Right.
And just because they're at a course where they need to hit fairways, it doesn't mean that they can't hit those fairways. And something that's really eye-opening, and something that I point to a lot, is Data Golf's course fit tool. They adjust each golfer's baseline expectations based on their play style. And some of the worst fits for TPC Sawgrass, because there's such an emphasis on fairways gain. Rory McIlroy's fourth from the bottom, getting penalized 0.36 strokes per round, which is wildly high. Like DJ's at 0.31. DJ's his own conversation, but Justin Thomas is a 0.3, because their play styles don't really fit what the stats sort of say matter. However, if you were really listening to me, and I forgive if you didn't, that's fine. But Rory and JT are on that list in like the bottom 10, and they're the past two winners here, because it doesn't necessarily, again, longer hitters can club down, they can hit fairways. Shorter hitters can't club up and hit it farther. So anytime driving accuracy is on the list, I try to be a little bit cautious, not to weight that too much.
I think it's also important to note the guys who may be perceived as being like big gainers in terms of like the course too. Like, I mean, nothing against like Collin Morikawa and like the buzz that he's gotten, but like he's been like the prototype of like everyone like, oh, okay, like cool. It's a course where distance doesn't matter as much. I'm above Morikawa like an absurd amount. And like, I think where he's viewed is like fair. He's a very, very good golfer, but like you want to make sure you don't go too far in that. We're making tweaks, not overhauls, based on course fit. I think that's a key thing to keep in mind. That's true always, but I think like, especially in this good of an event where you have so many good alternatives, you have to keep in mind that like it's tweaks, not overhauls, based on the way a golfer fits the course. Like you may bump Rory or JT down a bit, but like you can bump it down a bit and they can still win. I think that's a key thing to keep in mind for this week. With that in mind, let's dive into golfers who have done well at TPC Sawgrass in the past. And with Dustin Johnson, he's 11-2. And I think there's a lot to break down with him in terms of like, you wouldn't think of him as being a prototypical course fit. Also, iffy form, I guess, could phrase it that way. But he's 11-2. So like you're getting a bit of a discount in that regard. So what do you see with DJ, both at TPC Sawgrass and recently here?
Yeah, so I've seen some buzz on DJ on Twitter, because of the win odds are pretty long. He's 36-1 to win on FanDuel Sportsbook. Sometimes they're just as a breaking point. I almost got there with Bryson with the US Open. He was 28-1, and I almost got there. But sometimes there's just a breaking point where like you say, okay, this is just probably too long of a number for a golfer this good. Speaking of that, Brooks is 48-1, but I don't know. But I'm seeing Dustin Johnson's name discussed because of the betting odds being long, and that might inflate his popularity on FanDuel. Also, with the salary being low for what you'd expect for DJ long term, pretty low. Again, DJ, as I mentioned, doesn't fit the narrative of being a fairway finder. Doesn't really fit what we should be looking for if we're really elevating driving accuracy, but he's still played well at the Players. He's made 10 of 11 cuts here with, if we exclude a withdrawal, he's been 12th, 17th, 5th, and 48 in the past 4 finished years at TPC Sawgrass. Again, he's not going to like pop as if you look at the past 5 or like who's just the absolute best here. He doesn't really come to mind. I actually kind of had to search for it a little bit more with DJ. But if you give me a 12th, a 17th, a 5th, and a 48 at a course where volatility is sort of the name of the game, that's really strong. And then the question becomes current form and what to expect from DJ. In 2022, he has played 3 times. He was 25th at the Farmers, T8 in Saudi Arabia, and missed the cut at the Genesis with neutral irons, had a disaster in the bunkers. Not really the most engaged demeanor, but it also is Dustin Johnson, so you never know what to expect. And for anyone who doesn't know, there's a lot, like his name was circulating a lot in some breakaway golf league talk. I'll just leave it at that. So maybe he had some of that going on. But we're getting Dustin Johnson at 11-2 and a loaded field. Any salary we can save is appealing. He's played well here. We know what the peak for DJ is. Are you tempted at 11-2, or do you think that there's just enough to like elsewhere, not even to be drawn in by DJ?
Yeah, I think that it's like a tough situation because it comes down to what we discuss always at majors, and it's basically a major in terms of like field strength. Like, you got to draw the line somewhere in terms of I can't play everybody. And there are a lot of guys around DJ, both above and below, where I don't need to guess at like their form, and like their form's pretty good. In addition to having, at least like the history of DJ at TPC Sawgrass, where it's like good, maybe not like outstanding, but like good. I can get that. I can get good play recently without having to make like leaps. And I also think that like with a guy like Dustin Johnson, even if like his popularity is reduced from where it typically is, it's not going to be like 3%. So to me, I don't see enough like of an incentive for me to like take a leap on him when I could feel pretty secure with other guys elsewhere for this week at least, just because the alternatives are so good. What about for you?
Yeah, I took a long look. I don't think I'm going to get there myself. I don't feel that worried about it because the way for me to regret it is that peak DJ returns, and I don't know if he's quite there. If peak DJ returns, we're all in trouble, aside from maybe John Rahm, whose floor is still really high. But I don't think I'm going to feel the need for the FOMO to get me there. He's been putting really well, and that's something that matters a little bit less when this tournament's held in March than it is in May. I have him as just basically one of the best putters, 99th percentile over the past year with my adjustments. It's phenomenal. So there's still some fear, but I don't think I'm going to get there myself with DJ.
Yeah, I don't think I will either. And part of it is because we got some rock stars above him and below him. We'll talk about throughout the podcast for today. One of the rock stars above him is Justin Thomas. As you mentioned, the defending champs. Let's talk about him here. TPC Sawgrass has been solid, but not spectacular for him. So it might be a pitch for DJ. It's like, hey, JT was solid, but not spectacular, and then won last year. Maybe DJ could pull that around as well. But for JT, he's been here 7 times if you count 2020. He has a win in 2021. He was 3rd in 2016, 11th in 2018. And Thomas enters with pretty good form, too. He had top 10s at the Genesis, at the WM Phoenix Open over the past month. Thomas is 11-9. So, not a discount. But also, he's only $100 more than Colin Morikawa. And I mentioned Morikawa before. I was getting talked up in terms of course fit. His betting odds, at least yesterday, were very, very short. He was 11-1. He has since lengthened to 13-1. So, didn't get a lot of bites at that 11 number. But I'm still guessing Morikawa winds up being pretty popular this week, which may allow us to get JT maybe lower than he should be. So kind of into JT. What are your thoughts on him here?
Okay, so
it was a big inhale.
Well, look, I love talking about great fields, but there's also a point of like, look, am I really going to single out Justin Thomas and say, don't play Justin Thomas? No. I think there's a great case to be made for JT. Is he my favorite play up in this tier? No, he's not. So that's like, it's as simple as that, where I'm going to play Colin Morikawa over Justin Thomas. And I would like to ask if you would take a head-to-head, and if not, would you take Patrick Cantlay versus Justin Thomas?
Not Cantlay. I know that. Probably not Morikawa.
Talking a big game here, but he won't even take a.
Well, like part of the reason is because I think that Morikawa will be more popular. If it's in a vacuum, I think they're pretty even. So I don't really have a firm like stance. If you go to FanShare, like they're pretty even there too. So like it's not like a huge gap, but based on perceived Twitter sentiment, it seems like we'll probably get more Morikawa lineups this week than JT lineups. So I don't want to do a head-to-head, but like if we get the read before Thursday morning that it will be indeed that way, where Morikawa is a lot more popular than JT, then I would be going to JT over him. But like head to head, I think they're pretty even personally.
Okay.
So you think Morikawa is definitively above JT?
To the degree that two elite golfers can be separated, yeah.
Okay. Give me like a plus minus FanDuel. Like give me a spread here. I can go in if you give me a spread.
No, they're the same. They're
Coward.
They're the same betting odds now, and JT is $100 higher in salary. If I try to do this to you, you would be letting me know that you were giving up $100 in salary.
I would. Doesn't mean I can't get you to bite. Oh, well. Let's move down to some lower salary golfers with interesting histories here at this course. Starting with Adam Scott. He is $9,700 and been here a lot, once or twice. What are you seeing with Adam Scott in those 1 or 2 trips to TPC Sawgrass?
Yeah, 1 or 200 maybe. Scott won the Players in 2004. Since then, he has more top 10s with 3 than missed cuts at TPC Sawgrass with 2, which again, we're going to see some big names miss the cut. This isn't going to be like complete carnage or anything, but some guys are just going to have, an extra water ball that just pushes them too far down the list and they can't make it up. So any type of consistency at this course, definitely noteworthy. He has made 15 of 17 cuts since 2004 at TPC Sawgrass. Again, just phenomenal for a high variance event. And he's been golfing well. 10th at Abu Dhabi, 9th in Dubai, 38th at the WM Phoenix Open, 4th at the Genesis, 26th at the Arnold Palmer. We're going to talk roster construction. We're going to talk balanced lineup builds. That's going to be the way that I lean. I'm going to probably be light on John Rahm. Even Morikawa possibly can't lay just because the salaries are up there and they make me dig too far deep. Now, there's one caveat to the balanced lineup build, and his name is Chris Kirk. But outside of outside of that, I'm going to be very heavy on my balanced approaches. So Scott makes a lot of sense. I think I'm going to have plenty of Adam Scott this week. What are your thoughts on him?
Same thing. I'll be in that range a lot. I think that he makes a lot of sense within that range, so I have no reason to push back on him. And like, he doesn't have to be at the top of that tier for me to like him a lot. He's not at the top of that tier, but like, I'm going to wind up using him because I'll be in this range most likely so much. Like Sungjae Im's there, Matt Fitzpatrick is there. I think Shane Lowry might be there too. Shane Lowry's 96. Fitzpatrick 97, Sungjae Im 99. Joaquin Niemann is 98. So like, it's a good range, but like, I don't think that'll be enough to push me off of Adam Scott at 97 just because I'll be there so often.
Yeah, I got a lot of names highlighted there. Basically the ones you mentioned: Lowry, Fitz, Sungjae. Took a long, hard look at Niemann. A little bit nervous maybe there with, again, that's just the fear of driving accuracy creeping in, which is probably, again, a little bit unfounded. Niemann, I think if this were a couple weeks ago, we'd be talking about how good his form is. He missed the cut after a win, which is, forgivable. So I do, I guess, want to backtrack a tad where Scott's not my favorite, but I love this range enough where I'm going to be playing a lot of these guys. Would you take a Scott versus Niemann bet? Okay. I don't know.
I was including this part of a good range. I would take a Scott versus Sungjae or a Scott versus Matty Fitz.
I love Sungjae. No, I have
Matty Fitz.
No, I think I rank them Sungjae, Fitz, Lowry, Scott in that range.
Yeah, I would probably
do the
exact same order.
I said there's a lot to like about Adam Scott. There's a lot to like about other guys. It's the same conversation at a lower salary range that we just had with JT and Morikawa. It's like, there's nothing against Adam Scott. I just probably might be a little bit lower on him than some other guys because that's how the field works this week.
But I think that also bolsters the case for living in this range more and being more balanced. So personally, I think that is kind of the key takeaway here is that like, we want to be in this range quite a bit, and I will be in this range, and that naturally means I'll be on Scott for sure. Also, backing up your point, you said like superstars will miss the cut this week. As of yesterday, like if you look at the golfers with the odds between 17-1 and 31-1, it's a 6 golfer range. Everyone missed the cut last year. All 6 of those guys missed the cut last year. So it's going to happen. We're going to have like good golfers miss the cut, and like it's going to happen. That's okay. Like we got to account for that. It's a different event. So in a tough field with a lot of golfers in the field. So that's going to happen for sure. Let's talk about Sergio Garcia coming here just as long as Adam Scott. Basically, you talked in the open about how some bad putters have won here recently. So Sergio's a bad putter, guaranteed winner. Former winner here too, even if it was back in 2008. Garcia was runner-up in 2007 and 2014. He was 8th in 2013, and he's had a bit of a resurgence of late, and possible that started around the Players. Last year at the Players, he was a beast with his irons and pushed him to a 9th place finish. That has typically been his calling card at this course, has been the irons. Garcia's approach play at the Arnold Palmer was pretty rough, and it wasn't great at the Genesis either, but he's generally in pretty good form, and Garcia's just $9,400. Does he do enough for you there to move the needle at all?
Took a long look at Garcia. I'm going to have a hard time ranking him ahead of Corey Connors at 93. Fair. And Taylor
Talking about bad putters, might as well go Corey Connors.
Taylor Gooch 91, and then Russell Henley 9,000. I think I'd all rank above Garcia. I think Serge is probably 4th out of the 9,000 to 95 range. I know this isn't really helping people narrow things down, but this is again a conversation of you don't have to get that wild to build good lineups this week, and you can also just see who people aren't talking about. Because for the most part, if I go from 9,000 and above, I'm not interested in Justin Rose. I think the Seamus Power ship has sailed. You could definitely build a case for Jason Day. Any of these guys here, maybe Webb, who hasn't played in a while. But outside of that, from 9,000 and up, I could justify anyone. I'm not going to talk anybody out of anyone from that range. So you don't have to get wild this week. Embrace the chaos and just see where people aren't. And you can probably build some great lineups just with that strategy alone.
Yeah, I was going to try to get you on a Gooch versus Garcia head-to-head, but I realized that was stupid. So
I think Taylor Gooch is a great play. I know we're going to talk about Chris Kirk in a second, but we have a good number of standouts here in the lower salary range.
And that makes it tough to whittle things down. But I think the Garcia is definitely a consideration there. It's just more so, I think of the ranges I'll be in least, this might be the least one, the low 9,000 range, outside of Gooch. I think that my ideal route is peppering the daylights out of 9,600 and higher, and living the 10,000 range a lot, maybe having Kirk in there, maybe having Gooch, but I think I want to be in that higher 9,000 range quite a bit, and that might lead to me not using Sergio a lot. But if I had 94 left, love the rest of my lineup. Maybe I already had Gooch in there. I think that Garcia would be a guy I'd be okay using. Probably Connors first, but Garcia, worth consideration for me for sure. Let's dive into current form now and talk about golfers who are stroking it well. That does include Rory McIlroy. He is 11-6. Mentioned that he had one here previously, and the form I think has been trending up quite a bit. What do you see with Rory McIlroy entering this week?
Yeah, former winner here in 2019. He's in form. I think that's fair to say that. Won the CJ Cup back in October, and since the calendar flipped over to 2022, he's finished 12th at Abu Dhabi, 3rd in Dubai, 10th at the Genesis, and 13th at the Arnold Palmer after storming out to a huge lead in the first round that looked like he was probably going to win it. Had some, measured comments about the course, which is not really in the scope of what our show is. So I'm not going to dig into how the course played last week. But McIlroy ranks in the 95th percentile in adjusted ball striking over the past year. And that accounts for recency and field strength. In my database, he is 33rd in fairways gained, 33rd percentile in fairways gained over the past 50 rounds. And that one comes from fantasynational.com. He is a good Bermuda putter, and there's some overseeding. I don't really want to dig too far into the surface splits this week because I'm sort of downplaying putting in favor of tee to green anyway. So surface splits are very, very minor in terms of what I'm doing anyway this week. Just great overall form at TPC Sawgrass. So I think that Rory could catch a lot of buzz, a lot of popularity this week. Where are you with Rory? It's just such a good range in the 11,000 tier. I think we need to maybe rank these guys eventually before the end of the show.
Yeah, it's tough because like it is a lot of good dudes, but like Rory is like part of the reason that it's tough because I really don't want to be low on him. We had talked about how entering the Arnold Palmer, he was like blazing it everywhere except on his approach play. In the approach play, we knew we're like, okay, it's Rory McIlroy. He's always been very good there. That could come back, and it did. His approach play very solid last week. Just didn't have the putting. The putting had been there previously, as you said, a good Bermuda putter, been putting better than his like baseline recently. So you're like, okay, the approach was there. The putting could be there. The off the tee play has been stellar for a very long time now. I should probably be pretty in on Rory. And I would say right now, if you maybe rank them hypothetically, it'd be between Rory and JT first. Like, I don't know, like Morikawa's right there too, but again, I'm assuming he'll be very popular. That's like, it's hard to like get that out of my brain that he is going to be popular this week. So I'm debating between Rory and JT. Don't know which way I want to go yet, but I think it's between those two for me. Are they in that upper echelon for you? I know you're lower on JT, but what about Rory compared to like Morikawa and stuff?
So we're talking specifically the 7 golfers with a salary of 11 in front of their salary?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or Rahm.
Throw in Rahm.
Yeah.
I mean, it's boring, but Rahm really should be number one. But I would rank them at salary. Morikawa, Rahm, Cantlay, Hovland. Do I have to finish it?
I forgot Cantlay. Sorry.
I like Cantlay more as an outright winner just because the odds are shorter or longer, sorry. Compared to the salary, but this way I can sort of get exposure to Morikawa through DFS and not.
I do that a lot with Kyle Larson. Like I can't bet his win odds.
Is this a NASCAR
backdoor NASCAR take? Like I'll do that a lot where I'm like, oh, I'll get my financial exposure to him via this route than this one. Okay, definitive ranking right now. Rory, Cantlay, JT, Morikawa.
Sorry, is that now excluding Jon Rahm again?
Yeah.
Okay? Can I have a Jon Rahm versus Rory head to head?
No, Rahm would be first. It's not worth talking about. I changed my mind.
All right, man. I can't follow this, but let's put it this way. We like a lot of these names, right? Are there any golfers from 11,000 and above who you do not think you'll play? Because we can't play all of them if we're being realistic, unless we're playing hundreds of lineups.
DJ, realistically, probably not going to play.
I probably won't play DJ, and as much as it hurts to say, I probably won't play Xander.
Yeah, I thought that too.
I think if I had to give like a hot take, I might not play at salary. I might not play Rory.
Okay. I think I might not play Hovland if we're like tearing it out that way.
Yeah.
So I would say if I'm making a list right now of 3 guys I'm least likely to play, DJ, Xander, Hovland.
So the lowest salaried of that tier.
Correct.
I mean, I was 3 of the bottom 4, so I mean, it is what it is. But fair. Again, I struggle with this because it's like we can sit here and talk for 20 minutes about how to rank these guys, and the reality is they're virtually all playable. Like Xander's playable, DJ's playable. Sure. It's just a matter of who we prefer, and I think for us, we're just lower on DJ and Xander. So again, if you take the advice we're saying, and people are just like, yeah, I'm not going to play DJ or Xander this week because I can play these other guys. I think you could probably just play DJ and Xander.
Right. I would say that like you can probably get other guys we like more also at like not super. So I would say that like, yeah, That's what I would say. Okay, one guy we did not discuss there because he does not have an 11 in front of his salary is Scottie Scheffler. Probably should have an 11 there though. So let's talk about Scheffler right now. He's won 2 of the past 4 events. Seems good. He got those wins in very different fashions. Last week, Scheffler gained 8.1 on approach while losing 0.4 off the tee. It's nuts. At the WM Phoenix Open, he lost 1.6 in approach but gained 5.2 off the tee. He's very good. The key difference is that Scheffler has been lights out as a putter. He has gained at least 2.5 on the greens in 3 straight events. Bermuda is his best surface, so not a surprise that he would do better on like the Florida swing, but doing as well as he has still feels pretty wild. Scheffler is 10-7. I think we can agree that he's probably undersalaried. That's fair to say. He is undersalaried, but does the prospect of inflated popularity make you wary of Scheffler, or do we oversell how popular he'll be? Because like we've seen recently, recent winners don't get as big of a bump as I think I would think they would get.
I'm actually trying to find him on FanShare.
He's 18th. I was just looking at the same thing.
Yeah. That's low. That's the same as DJ. DJ and Scheffler's salaries probably should be flipped. I think that would make some sense. I have nothing bad to say about Scottie Scheffler. And one of the things I was kind of waiting, the reason I capped that past conversation at 11,000 and up was because I knew Scheffler was the next guy we were talking about. And I think that this tier, more than anything, more than that 11,000 tier is really where I'm going to be living with Scheffler, Daniel Berger, and Cameron Smith. I think that you get a lot of win equity there, according to my simulations. And you get like my win simulation model has John Rahm at about 6%, which is a lot lower than he typically is. Cantley's about 5%, and then we're looking at about 3 to 2% for virtually everyone else, and that includes Scheffler, Smith, and Berger. So I'm gonna have a hard time passing up the savings that I get from those 3 without losing a whole lot of win equity, which then allows me. And again, we have Chris Kirk to talk about, but I don't have to be living in the low 8,000 range just to get access to guys with win juice. And that's very appealing to me. So Scheffler's part of it. I don't think he'll be that chalky, as you mentioned. So I'm big on Scheffler, but he's not the only one in that tier.
Yeah. So I think that like I sent you this lineup yesterday, but like it was a lineup with Chris Kirk in there. He's 78. We'll talk about him in a second. But it had Scheffler, Smith, Berger. If you do, well, I'm not giving up 6, but like 4 guys of Kirk, Berger, Smith, and Scheffler, you have 10-2 left for your final 2 golfers. That's
Pretty
stupid.
good.
You can go with like, I mean, maybe not Rahm, but like you could go with like Rory. Rory in that lineup leaves you $8,800 left. I don't really want to be in that range that much, but like that's not outrageous. You could go with like Brooks Koepka. Brooks, MF, and Koepka, an event where they give out a huge check. Like, this is really appealing to build things that way. So whether it's with Kirk or without Kirk, I think the idea of peppering that 10,000, peppering that high 9,000 range is very appealing. So as much as we talked about the studs this week, like JT, Morikawa, Rory, I think that this is going to be my like preferred build is being in that range as much as possible. Maybe that does include having a Rory in there, a Rory or a JT, Cantlay, et cetera, and then dipping down here for like my second and third golfers, having Kirk in there. But like, I just want to be in this range a lot. So in terms of like quote unquote priority ranges to me this week, I would say the 10K range is my number 1 priority to be in on a lot. Would you phrase it that way as well?
I would.
Perfect. Let's go down to some other golfers who are noteworthy and talk about Joaquin Niemann more, because you mentioned the win, mentioned the miscut after that, but generally good form. $9,800, which means the conversation around Niemann is very different than the conversation we had coming off his win because he was like 11-8 or something like that. Yeah. So Niemann is 9-8 this week. What are you seeing with him there?
I was going to ask if you wanted me to pivot to Brooks, but
sure, let's do Brooks. Let's do it.
Okay. Because I think Brooks is a very, I mean, he's part of that tier that we just talked about at 10-4. His win odds are 48-1 on FanDuel Sportsbook, very long. But Brooks is also Brooks Koepka. Now, that's a loaded statement in a lot of ways because that's a Brooks Koepka who wins majors, but also a Brooks Koepka who doesn't always have the most consistent output. His past results have been 16th at the Honda Classic, which he got there with basically absolutely neutral short game and did it all with ball striking. Missed the cut at the Genesis with pretty terrible putting, but also poor off the tee play, neutral adjusted iron play according to Data Golf. Third at the WM Phoenix Open, which is a course where he typically plays well. Putted really well, did gain strokes with ball striking there. Cut at the Farmers with, again, a lot of putting, poor ball striking. So I'll simplify this and say if we go back to the Farmers in late January, he's been cut, third, cut, and 16th. He's putted really well at times. The off the tee play has been up and down. The ball striking has been up and down. I still think that with all of that, there's appeal for Brooks. He's been pretty solid at TPC Sawgrass. He's got an 11th, a 16th, a 35th, a 56th, and a missed cut. So 4 of 5 made cuts here. I think that like he's part of that tier. He should be higher than some of these guys, but it's also like, I'm sorry, I'm going to prefer Scottie Scheffler and Daniel Berger to Brooks Koepka right now, but that doesn't mean I don't like Brooks. So talk to me about Brooks, and maybe we can also throw Sam Burns and Will Zalatoris into this low 10,000 range because we got to hit this range right, I think. I think it's going to be key this week.
Yeah, so I think that like for me, like I was going through that lineup of like peppering the 10,000 range. Brooks is the fourth guy I put in there. It was kind of just because like I had the luxury to do so, which means to me implicitly that implies that like I've got Scheffler, Smith, Berger all above him.
Right,
I do.
Me too.
So I'll just be in this range enough where I might still get there. Now the question, if it is Koepka, Burns, Zalatoris, Louis hasn't been like as red hot recently, but I think he's still like worth like checking out, I would say, I guess, in there too at 10-1, Louis Westhazen. I would probably go. See, I think that Zalatoris is interesting if you think that people like kind of overlook him because he's not like a quote unquote course fit. Like, I think that that's kind of appealing to me. But I also just don't generally like him as much as I like Slam and Sammy Burns. So I guess I'd probably go Koepka above those guys and then Burns, Zalatoris. I think the pitch for putting Burns above Zalatoris would be putting, and putting may not matter as much this week. So maybe I should go Zalatoris over Burns, but I would say Koepka is one for me. That's the ranking of those three that I feel best about, I would say.
Yeah, I think I still put Brooks number one just because of the pedigree, which is usually not how I react. Like, actually have him ranked statistically the worst of those three. I was going to make a joke that Zalatoris is basically the same type of, like, he's JT and Rory, who are the past two winners here. He's not, because his putting's a lot worse than that. Burns might actually fit that a little bit more, but I do have Koepka first. But again, with you, he's not the first player. If I'm plugging in three guys in the 10,000 range, he's not one of the top three. It's just, I think he's so fascinating because he could be, it's either going to be, wow, we didn't play Brooks at 10-4 and he's like in the top 5 after the first day, or he's 30th and it's like, yeah, it's because he's Brooks right now. Like, I think he might be more fascinating than DJ to me.
I agree.
So
I've seen more reason to buy into Brooks recently than DJ. So like, that's why I'm like, and also he's lower salary, so that helps too. So I would say,
would you play him in your head-to-head against me?
No,
I don't think I could.
Because like, I'm not going to have 4 guys in this range, and he's below, again, Scheffler, Smith, Berger. I mean, I might not play 4 guys. I should say that. I was going to say I might not. I might, but I might not. So honestly, I might play the lineup yesterday, but and that lineup did include Chris Kirk. Let's talk about him. Kind of the guy I think is a decision point for this week. You talked about Kirk last week in the current form section, and he wound up paying off, 5th place finish. This week, he's $7,800. And when you're coming off a pair of top 10 finishes, that's pretty fun. Kirk has gained at least 5 strokes tee to green in 3 straight events. He has also gained at least 1.7 strokes putting in all those, which is a good recipe for 3 straight top 14 finishes, which is, shocker, exactly what he has. Kirk, he's shown upside in the past. He showed more consistency recently. I'm skeptical the consistency sticks, but the upside's there. And that's kind of the key. I also think that an important thing here to consider is that lower salary golfers rarely get a lot of buzz to the point where they are prohibitively popular. So like, I'm operating under the assumption guys like Neiman will be popular this week. Kirk, I don't think so. At least not to the point where I get scared. So I'm pretty in on Chris Kirk this week. What are your thoughts on him?
Love Kirk. His salary opens up a lot. The only issue I have, I mean, you laid out the case for why we should like Chris Kirk. The only case I have is against him is that I like to build a core. And if I have Chris Kirk as part of my core, I don't really have a whole lot of flexibility to pivot away from him in lineups and still be building similar lineups. So basically what I'm getting at is Chris Kirk is naturally going to be tied to a lot of, or potentially all of, if I'm not careful, my John Rahm lineups or my Morikawa lineups to make things work. There's not anywhere else to go for me unless I go up to 8,400 with Alexander Noren. He's the next guy I would have a lot of interest in, and I don't think I'm quite going to get there myself very often. So if I'm building one lineup, a head-to-head or a single entry, I think Kirk makes a lot of sense. Like you said, I don't think he's going to be as popular as he probably should be because he's just not a big name, and you really have to be kind of plugged in, maybe listen to the heat check to be in on Chris Kirk. I'm not saying like his win odds are very short, so anyone who just matches those up will kind of be drawn to Chris Kirk as well. But he's not a household name. He's not winning the PIP. He's not winning the PIP or anything. So my concern is that if I anchor around Chris Kirk, I'm going to be really restricted with how I can pivot away from that. And I want to, if you're going to play a lot of Chris Kirk, if you're going to play 10 lineups and you say, I want to play Chris Kirk in 5, just be careful not to have all of your Kirk tied to a specific stud or something like that, unless that's how you want to play it.
But I think that the key, the fun thing about him is he works with every construction because he can offset the salary of Rahm, or he can allow you to just like bathe in that 10,000 range. Both those to me, really appealing. So I think that that's why I feel okay with like going hard at Kirk. And like if we're talking about this from a cash game perspective, for cash games, my mindset is I want to grind out the most under salary golfers in the field. Kirk is that. And I think that his cut odds are high enough where I can like be okay with him in that regard too. So I think for our head to head, Kirk will be in there. It's just deciding the other 5 guys. And like, it might be the very balanced lineup that we've been talking about, or it could be, use Rahm, who we think is the best guy straight up. And use Kirk to offset that. I think that both those routes are very, very valid, and it allows me to be pretty heavy on Kirk without him being tied to like, every Rahm lineup being tied to him, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely possible. That's just one thing that I find myself doing is being too exposed to one value and having that tied up to a lot of
Again, backdoor NASCAR comment. I had that happen a lot. Like, oh man, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. wrecked. There go all my Larson lineups, like stuff like that. Like that definitely happens, So that's why I go with the spreadsheet route, type them out in Excel so you can see the combinations pretty easily. Pretty fun, just saying. Don't roll your eyes. Don't roll your eyes. I'm right. Let's take a look at what the bookmakers are saying for this week. Justin Thomas, Colin Morikawa, and John Rahm are the co-favorites at FanDuel Sportsbook, all sitting at 13-1. Dips down then to Victor Hovland at 17-1, and Rory McIlroy 19-1. Patrick Cantlay 21-1. Scottie Scheffler checks in at 24-1, and Xander Schauffele 28-1. Hideki Matsuyama, we've not said his name yet, I don't think. He's 31-1. And then Cameron Smith and Daniel Berger. Sorry, Cameron Smith. Whatever. Cameron Smith and Daniel Berger. Dan Berger. That sounds terrible. Round at the top group at 34-1. So we talked about this a bit in passing, but the odds are pretty flat this week. So you get one single entry tournament lineup. What is your roster construction for that lineup? You only get one.
A balanced build.
I agree.
Centered on Berger, Scheffler, and Cameron Smith.
Could not agree more. I think that like with the way it's partly like the way this event sets up, partly the way that like tougher field set up, and partly like the fact that I think all three of those guys are like rock star plays relative to salary. I think if I had one of those things, I'd feel good about it. But having all three together makes it to me not a no-brainer, but like something I feel very good about and very firm about personally.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't have to be the route you go. I know we're talking about Chris Kirk, but like Billy Horschel at 88 is a value play. Russell Henley at 9,000 is a value play. You can still play. You can build around Rahm, who again, Rahm's not my first player pick, but he's the best play in the field. He hasn't been putting very well. He switched his putter, had that like 1-inch putt that I'm sure we've all seen by now. From 10 inches, he putted it about an inch. But he's the best play. But if you really want to play like Morikawa or Rory this week, you can. I just think that the best approach for the win equity available is that trio in the 10,000 range.
I do too. So one single entry tournament lineup, that's where I go, and might go there for cash too, just because I think that like it's a pretty attractive build. I talked before about Morikawa's odds lengthening. He went from 11 to 1 to 13 to 1. Which other golfers' odds have shifted the most since things, let's say since like midday yesterday, unless you have odds dating further back than that?
I mean, I probably do in a spreadsheet, but like
somewhere, yeah.
I think it's more noteworthy to see who's getting talked up from Monday.
Since salaries dumped, basically.
Yeah. Patrick Cantlay shortened from 24 to 21. Unfortunately for my win pick suggestion, or likely win pick suggestion. Corey
it's good
Connors,
for DFS though, you know. If we have smart people backing him, that helps.
Corey Connors, 55 to 46. You want fairways and you want irons? I know a guy.
DGAF.
I know a guy.
I got a guy. Got a friend.
Jordan Spieth, 55 to 48. You want to close your eyes on every drive, but open them up on the iron shots? I got a guy for that. Sergio Garcia, Siwoo Kim, Jason Day, 90 to 75. All past players winners. Russell Henley, 120 to 75. Justified. I've seen him shorter other places. It
was a price correction. It was a bad number, I think. It was a price correction.
He's not on the Chris Kirk level at 9,000, but like you want fairways and irons?
Gooch or Henley for you?
Gooch.
By how much?
I'd say like 60-40.
Okay. Cool. That works. Continue.
And then,
sorry, cut you off.
You're good. And then the notable lengthening I've seen, Morikawa 11 to 13, Dustin Johnson 34 to 36, and Abraham Answer 55 to 75.
Abe the Babe slipping. Well, pretty disappointing. Yeah, I think that Connors makes a lot of sense for 93. And like I think that that range, I've talked about not liking that range as much. It's more so like the volume of guys in that range. Connors, very good play. Gooch, very good play. Henley, very good play. But it's kind of like just those three, maybe Sergio in there too. And I think that's kind of the key hang up for me is that. So that's where I'm at with regards to them. Which lower salary golfers have odds to stand out to you?
Yeah, if I look at golfers with salaries of 9,000 or lower, we have Billy Horschel at 48. I think he'll get a lot of buzz. Max Homa, 55. Russell Henley, Siwoo Kim, Gary Woodland, Chris Kirk, all 75 to 1. Jason Kokrak, 90 to 1. Tom Hoagie, Alex Noren, Brian Harmon, Keith Mitchell, 120 to 1.
Sorry, I got distracted by Twitter. Sorry, I'm going to close Twitter. We're not going to deal with that now. That's a problem for future, Jim. Something's happening and I don't want to know what it is. Anyway, yeah, I tweeted at Mike Gesicki and bad things that are happening. So anyway, we're going to leave that where it is. Kirk at 78, $7,500. Or sorry, 75 to 1 to win. I know I flipped them around. I'm still distracted by this Twitter thing.
I can tell.
It's
a good thing this isn't live.
Yeah. Sorry, I thought for a second it wasn't and I got really confused. But anyway. So Chris Kirk, you could think with us talking about him, not that we drive anything, but like with the odds being that short, you might think that he's like running away in terms of tags. He's 13th in fan share tags right now. So I think that to me, every like data point says like he could be popular, but like just based on like historical research, we know that guys like him don't tend to get steamed up too much. So despite the fact he pops there, pops other spots, not a huge thing for me. You mentioned Horschel at 48 to 1. $8,800. We know Horschel's been golfing pretty well recently. Let's lump him in with the Henley and Gooch discussion because he's in that range too. Is Horschel in the Gooch tier for you or no?
Yeah, he's third of those three, and I think those are the three standouts, which is why I have enough ways to go where I think I'd probably be a little bit lighter on Chris Kirk again, just from so I can keep my core like tighter, but I will stray to some Kirk and then upgrade from like a Scheffler to wherever that gets me, depending on my lineup. So,
yeah, I think that's probably where I'm at.
Home is also close. Okay. Home is close to that.
Yeah, team. I think he's in that discussion too. But again, I don't want to be in this range very much. So I want to be selective when I am there for sure. Let's talk about the weather for this week. And it is noteworthy, I would say, because it's going to be wet in Florida the entire weekend, especially early. Thursday, kind of drenched with rain forecasted the entire day. Wind speed's not super high. And there don't seem to be waves of when the rain will arrive. So if you're trying to like pinpoint an ideal tee time, they're all going to be in wet stuff. Friday, similar, pretty constant rain odds, not spiky wind, which gives some thought to tee time stacking in order to like try to find spots where they get lighter rain. But in general, it seems like everybody's going to be wet, impacted by this for sure. Saturday has rain in the morning and then massive winds throughout the entire day. Be around 20 miles per hour, basically from 10 a.m. on. So all the leaders will be in bad conditions. On Sunday, the wind will start around 15 miles per hour and then will dip throughout the day. So later groups on Sunday will have an edge. If you're looking to play some like, play some depth for the final round, keep in mind that like the later groups are going to have better conditions than the early groups on Sunday. In general, it's going to be gross weather. It's like you've got what in the past has been a high variance event, and it might be more chaotic than usual. So I think we should keep that in mind. Brandon, how does this alter your approach, if at all, knowing that the weather's going to suck this week?
Not too much. Maybe bump up some guys who have played here in the past or who play well in Florida. But one area that would be affected most is the greens if it's wet. But a tweet from Andy Lack at ADP Lack Sports on Twitter mentions that the greens here have a sub-air system and that they can basically be dried out whenever they want. It's just a matter of whether the tournament does that or not. So don't go overboard. Don't assume that the golfers will be sticking the greens just because it's wet. So one thing to keep in mind, we don't tend to overreact or react too heavily to weather because it's a little bit hard to predict, believe it or not, weather. So I think that I'm probably just playing it as is this week because I don't think that I have a clear enough advantage one way or the other.
I think that what I would do is increase, like if you're modeling out, maybe you increase the volatility, but also like in your head, increase the volatility a little bit because like it adds one more factor of unpredictability. So like typically when I'm talking about that in terms of DFS, it means I want to be more receptive to pivoting off the chalk. And I also want to maybe lower the lid on my exposure levels. I tend to have pretty high exposure levels. Like my cap tends to be pretty high. I'll make that a little bit lower this week. Like if Kirk was going to be a 70% play, maybe 60%, like, not going too crazy, but I think that's kind of the way I want to view things in a more volatile event. With that said, let's go tier by tier now and break down our favorite plays over on FanDuel for the Players Championship, starting off with the stud range. Brandon, when the money's on the table, who are you riding with for this week?
I should say Jon Rahm because I think we both say he's the best play, but we're not going to talk about him. Would you say Jon Rahm, if you could play, Jon Rahm is the best play?
Yes.
Okay. He's the best play. If you're not playing Jon Rahm, you can't get there, or you're just kind of moving away from Jon Rahm. I'm going to go to Colin Morikawa first. There's a reason that he started as the betting favorite, which isn't the case anymore. But this sets up really well for what Morikawa does in its hitting fairways. and striping the irons. He was on the No Laying Up podcast recently, and he actually said that he's trying to build speed to his driving, but not overhaul it, because it's important for him to be in the fairway, because that gives him access to his biggest strength, which is just being the best iron player on the planet. So that's really noteworthy. He's going to, be strategic here, and that's going to give him access to that iron play. He picked up strokes from ball striking at TPC Sawgrass last year, but lost in both areas of the short game. He's been really good in 2022, so I have no issues with Morikawa. I think he's pretty close to Rahm from a DFS standpoint for this week.
Yeah, I think that Morikawa, I'm probably too low on him. Like, if you give me more time away from like, oh, it's Rory, oh, it's JT, maybe I'll warm up to Morikawa. I think that like if there's one guy I'm afraid that I'm too low on, it's probably Morikawa if I had to pinpoint. So that's why I wouldn't do the head-to-head. But again, it's assuming that he'll be popular. Maybe that won't be the case. But I don't know.
You must have made the pip, man. You're talking about Rory, JT, just snubbing Morikawa.
I'm not used to hearing Pip said out loud. I'm used to seeing PIP, and like in my head, I always read it as PIP. When you say it as Pip, it sounds a lot less cool. I'm not gonna lie.
Nah, man, it's cool.
It is cool, like inherently, because it's like generating buzz. So like it is cool inherently, but like calling it Pip makes it a lot less cool. Like they should consider a name change. Just throwing it out there. Anyway, I had JT on the sheet as like my top guy. I'm going to go Cantlay. I need to go Cantlay, I think. Okay. I think the one downside of Cantlay is course history, because like he doesn't really have the best form at TPC Sawgrass. Like looking back at Cantlay's history here, 22nd, 23rd cut, and then finished ones. His most recent one was cut last year. However, in 2020,
yes,
Buddy went nuts.
Yes. I was waiting for one of these takes.
He was unconscious. So, redemption narrative, Patrick Cantlay, man of destiny, gonna win the Players this week. Cantlay, as we know, golfing really well. He leads the tour in Data Golf's true strokes gained over the past 6 months at plus 2.46. That despite not having like his best approach play in that time, Cantlay, if we're looking at him relative to this field, ranks 4th in strokes gained off the tee according to Fantasy National, 32nd in approach, 17th around the green. I'm just saying, I need to go with Patrick Cantlay. I had JT on the sheet. We're making an in-show pivot. Patrick Cantlay, guaranteed winner at the Players this week. Redemption. It's like when the Expos would have won the World Series in that I don't know, whatever. I was like 3. The lockout or strike shortened year. Patrick Cantlay, man of destiny. You heard it here first. Guaranteed. Don't look at me like that. Don't judge. Don't judge.
Well, anyway, we could have said this about Hideki, but we'll move on.
I could say it about like Sungjae played well. I'm pretty sure in that one, right? Wasn't Sungjae?
I remember it's Hideki.
I remember that week vividly. I don't remember the specifics who golfed really well that
Hideki
day,
9 under, Harris English, Bezaden Hote, Siwoo Kim 7 under, Leishman Cantlay 5 under, Daniel Berger 4 under.
Let's talk about him then. We both have him as our second high salaried play. You tell me your pitch for Berger, I'll tell you mine.
I think that he is about even with Scottie Scheffler and ahead of Cam Smith, but that he's just part of that trio. I mean, you could talk Berger, I guess, and then I could talk about someone else in that trio if you want to do that.
Yeah, so I'll do Berger because I was pretty torn between him and Cam Smith. I think they're both Cameron Smith, and like I think they're both going to be in my lineups. But the reason that Berger was the guy I chose when it came down to it is, it's $100 discount. That doesn't hurt. But Berger, bad at the WM Phoenix Open, bounced back at the Honda, gained 9.9 strokes tee to green, and he gained 2.3 putting, finished 4th there. It was a return to form for his putting, which is generally very good, but lagged in the summer and at the TOC back in January. Berger actually leads the field in approach the past 50 rounds. He has a pair of top 10s at TPC Sawgrass, lit it up in his one round, as you mentioned, in 2020. So I think he brings everything you need at 10.5. That's why Berger was my favorite. But again, I'll be in this range a lot. So if you had to pick someone else, who would you go with?
I mean, I should go Scheffler because it's Scottie Scheffler right now. But because I think we can just say Scheffler's won twice in the past month, I should lay out the case for Cam Smith a little bit more. In 2022, well, he actually ended the swing season 9th at the CJ Cup, 15th at Houston, and 4th at the RSM, and then he ended up winning the Tournament of Champions, fending off some big names in John Rahm there too. Then stuck around in Hawaii, missed the cut at the Saudi Open. I forgive that. Fourth at the Saudi International, and then returned to the PGA Tour with a 33rd at the Genesis with neutral putting, but gaining strokes with approach and around the green play. Was 17th here last year. And if you take strokes gained but remove off the tee play, which again, key stat, but if we're saying if you can just hit the fairway, what do you do from there? That's kind of something you could think about. Cam Smith leads the field in adjusted strokes gained fairway through green over the past year, according to my model. So I think Cam Smith makes a lot of sense this week at the salary that he is.
Yeah, I think he does as well. And like when we're talking about win picks, I'm going to be in this range for that as well. Like this is going to be the range for me to discuss. One thing I'll note there, we talked about Brooks before. I mentioned this before. He's actually shortened while we've been talking because he was 48 around 9:30 or so this morning. He's now 36. So Brooks has shortened as well. So a little bit of value gone there in case you're
it's because we are live. That's what it is.
I think it was before we went live, but I'll take credit. We are.
I pulled not that long ago, but
we're moving the numbers. You know,
that's what I like to believe.
Market makers, whales. Not really. Anyway, mid salary. Who do you like?
Sung J M 9,900. Sort of faded at Bay Hill last week. Really rode the putter. T20. Yeah. But he's a good Bermuda putter. 83rd percentile over the past 100 rounds, according to Fantasy National on the surface. For if you're factoring that in, which again, I'm just kind of looking at overall putting and not even weighting that in a ton this week. But he's very accurate off the tee. Very good short game. We've seen him find success here with the T17. If you're kind of just looking for someone hitting fairways without being short and can play good golf from there, Sung Jae fits for sure.
Yeah, I think that it's like tough for me to decide between Sung Jae and Matt Fitzpatrick in this top range. It's tough. Like if I have one lineup, probably Sung Jae, but I do like Matty Fitz. Let's talk about Matty Fitz here. Maybe this is just my way of coping for losing that head-to-head against Sung Jae last week. But like, I think Sung Jae is great. I think Fitzpatrick is great. Shane Lowry. So you talk about Sung Jae, so I'll talk about Fitzpatrick here. He enters here with 4 straight top 12 finishes. He has done some of that via putting, but that's just kind of a known good part of his game. He is second in the field in Bermuda putting the past 100 rounds, and he's someone who gains strokes off the tee without being long, which is kind of what we were talking about before, which is what you want for this course. Fitz finished 9th here last year thanks to good off the tee play. So $9,700, I will take it for sure. If I had one lineup, I would go Sung Jae, but I think that Fitzpatrick is very, very worthy of consideration as well.
Yeah, his iron play is usually what kind of got me off of Fitz for a while, but it's good now. So
yeah, I think that helps for sure. Okay, who else do you like here in the mid-range?
I have Taylor Gooch, 9,100. He's been lingering lately. He's got 5 top 27s and 7 thirds in 2022. The 2 missed cuts came with poor putting, which is always what you want to see whenever you do see a missed cut. He's a good, or at least above average Bermuda putter. I mean, he's just, as if anyone's listened to the show, and every time I talk about Taylor Gooch, he's just a guy who's like good at everything, not great at any one thing. And that's awesome for courses that test every category. So I'm good with Gooch. He finished T5 at Sawgrass last year. In 2019, he missed the cut. However, he ranked 11th in strokes gained approach in his 2 rounds compared to everyone else's 4 rounds. Again, if they made the cut. Maybe he likes the setup. I'm in on Taylor Gooch this week for sure.
Are you sure you would say he's not great at approach? Because like you said, he's good at everything, but not great at anything. I might classify him as being great at approach.
It's more of an elite, like.
Okay, he's not elite.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fair. He's also like very good around the green, and like the area where like Gooch lags is like off the tee. And again, if we're gonna pull, like you could do like an archetype stack with Cam Smith and Taylor Gooch. That could be kind of fun.
Gooch is 93rd percentile in adjusted approach, 96th around the green. I guess he is elite at some things. I'm all in on Taylor Gooch this week. Would you take a Taylor Gooch versus your next? Well, you talk about your next guy, but I'm gonna ask you if you did head-to-head. Probably.
That guy's Tyrrell Hatton. Hatton. We haven't really talked about him. I keep forgetting that he's here. But like, I think the reason I kept forgetting is because he does not check that course history box. He's actually been bad, actively bad at the players. You mentioned the course history matters more this week. That's a concern for a guy who's not a real value at $9,500. The lone made cut for Hatton was in 2017. Best finish is 41st. However, he was pretty decent in a missed cut here last year, a good missed cut, you may say. And he was outstanding when things got canceled back in 2020. So I can overlook the course history a bit to an extent. The form is very good for Hatton. He finished 9th, 6th, 4th, 28th, and 2nd the past 5 events. The second was at a very good field in the Arnold Palmer, largely fueled by putting, so kind of fluky in that sense, but he was decent elsewhere too. Hatton, well-rounded golfer, quality golfer. I'll take that for 95, and I'll do a Hatton versus Gooch head-to-head. Why not? Sure. Like, I like Gooch, but I like Hatton too, so let's just do it. Let's party.
Maybe I'm turning my forces around because I won both of them last week, so.
You're still down by like 6, bud. Aren't you? Or 5?
I'm down 6. I won't mention that I'm way up with our win bets and our bobble hat competition.
I'm gonna make it up this week. Don't worry. I'm gonna make it up. I'm gonna make it up. I can't make up the bobble hat this week, but I can't make the bobble hat for like the next month, but I can make up the win bets.
Hey, you've done it before.
I know. I'm aware. Let's move now to the value plays for this week. Starting off with the guy we talked about in passing a couple times, Russell Henley at $9,000. What is the appeal for you with Henley?
A lot. Henley, I think, is a little under salaried at 9,000. His win odds at 120 to 1 have just skyrocketed down to 75. And again, I've seen him shorter at other books on, whatever. Henley is one of 5 golfers in the field to rank in the 85th percentile or better in adjusted iron play and fairways gained. The others, Daniel Berger, who we like, Colin Morikawa, who we like, Victor Hovland, who I like. I don't know about you. And Corey Connors, who we both like, I think, relative to salary. Great company to be in. He has not missed a cut since the Open back in July. He has not been great at TPC Sawgrass with 5 missed cuts and 8 starts, but when he has made it, he's been top 35. And again, he's golfing better now than he was in years past. So I'm in on Russell Henley. I think he's a fantastic value play.
I agree. He is also my top pick here. Again, you mentioned the struggles of TPC Sawgrass. Best finish 17th. That's like the one negative I see here, though. Ranks 4th in approach and 22nd around the green the past 50 rounds. He's above average as a putter on Bermuda. That definitely helps. The lack of distance, less of an issue this week than it typically is. Henley, 13th in Data Golf's true strokes gained over the past 6 months. He's 21st over the past year for $9,000 in this field. Pretty sick. So whether you're looking at like the more recent form or like the longer term form, he grades out well for both. I think that Henley, he's not above Gooch for me, but I would put them in the same tier. It sounds like you might have Gooch a tier above him. Is that correct or no?
I wouldn't say a full tier. Maybe
okay.
I'd say they're in the same tier, but Gooch is above.
Okay, fair enough. Who else do you like here in the value range?
Billy Horschel. I think he could end up being chalky for a value, like relative to being a value play at 88.
I think he's more likely to than Kirk. Yes.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Because of the name value, the Florida angle, all the stuff, but he's been all over the top of the leaderboard during the Florida swing, 16th and 2nd. He's actually hitting the irons really well, which is not typically Billy Horschel's MO. So maybe there's some regression coming, but maybe there's changes. Always hard to say. You want to buy into larger or smaller samples with younger golfers, which Horschel isn't. However, form has been good before that. 11th at the Farmers, 6th at the WM Phoenix Open. He has made 6 of 8 cuts at TPC Sawgrass. He's very accurate off the tee. I don't know if you could ask for a whole lot more, but anyone who's just matching win odds to salary will be on Billy Horschel this week.
I think that's justified. It's not just the odds, it's other stuff too, as you mentioned. So I think the Horschel makes a lot of sense. 88.
He could be 95. I'll talk about Chris. I think it's fine.
Yeah. Then I'd
probably go Hatton, 93.
Yeah, I think that's fair. But I think that he makes sense. The reason I might not be there a lot, though, is because of Chris Kirk at 78. Like, again, I think the appeal is high no matter how you want to build rosters. You want to go John Rahm, sick. Plug in Chris Kirk, go from there. You want to go everyone in that 10,000 range in the same lineup, sick. You can do that with Chris Kirk. He ranks 44th in strokes gained off the tee, 60th in approach, and 8th around the green. A lot of his recent uptick has been tied to putting. And he's not typically good there, but I'd rather have him be good recently than bad. It's not like that's the only thing he's been doing well. His other stuff is good too. Kirk has made all but 2 cuts at the Players. His best finishes are a pair of 13ths. Form now is obviously very good. I will be here to help me get more exposure to the guys at $9,500 on up. So I think that I'll use Kirk as like a way to increase my exposure to that 95 and up range, specifically just unloading the clip on that 10,000. I think that's kind of the key for me. So Chris Kirk, no matter which range you want to pepper, he'll help you do it and help you avoid ranges you don't want to be in as well. So I think that's a key appeal for me for this week. Let's finish up here with our win picks based on the win odds over at FanDuel Sportsbook. Brandon, I've already told you what I'm doing. What are you doing here? I didn't say specific guys, but general thoughts. Where are you turning to for this week?
Yeah, very similar. I'm going to pass over the top few, and based on the bets I've already made, I'm living in this like 20 to 30 range. I definitely want to go with Daniel Berger at 34.
Okay.
And I think I'm going to go Patrick Cantlay at 21. He's not that much below Jon Rahm long term. That I think 21 is still too long, even though he's not 24 anymore.
So my 3 were Cantlay, Berger, Smith. And I was like, oh, if he takes Berger and Smith, I'll just go to Cantlay. So I'll go Smith for sure. I'll lock him in. I do want to go with that. As far as the second guy, I could just go Berger as well, because I agree that he's undersalaried and it kind of blocks you in that regard.
I considered Scottie Scheffler at 29 as well.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
It's a tall order to win 3 times
back to back. Yeah,
5 starts
5
back to back.
Yeah.
Again, I think some people say that doesn't matter. I think it does if you just sort of trust variance.
Like the mental, the mental load it requires to win a PGA tournament event. Like that's a lot.
That, but also how things break in your favor.
Yeah.
You kind of need to be a little bit lucky sometimes to win. Like if Victor Hovland didn't fall off, Scheffler wouldn't have won last week. But like nothing against Scottie Scheffler. I think at 29 he's appealing.
Yeah. So I'm gonna go Cameron Smith for sure.
Mm-hmm.
He's the same odds as Dustin Johnson.
Yep.
That's like disorienting. Let me dig into DJ quick.
And Brooks. You won't but you see it. Well, DJ's been putting really well.
I can't it's a mental block of like, I knew I could have gotten Brooks at a better number. So like buying him at 36 feels like, I don't know. It feels sinful. It's like very difficult to like unsee that longer number.
Yeah. And if you were to model this out, you wouldn't like what you saw from Brooks at even 48. So. Dead air.
I know. I like go back and edit the podcast at the end. I don't cut out the dead air, but I'm trying to find to make sure our voices align because they're on different tracks. And it's always hard to look at this part because it's like no one's talking right now. No one cared about that. I want to go Smith and Berger. Berger Smith. Dan Berger, Cam Smith. No, Rory. Change my mind. We're doing it. We're going Rory. Rory and Cam Smith. Cameron Smith. Daniel Berger. Pat Cantlay. We're doing it all.
So we got Rory at 21 and Cantlay at 21.
Versus
Cam Smith
Berger
and
at
Berger
34.
at 34.
Yeah.
I like it.
If Berger wins, I'm going to be very sad. I can't go more drastic than that because I don't actually care that much, but I'm going to be very sad.
Yeah. And again, just a quick note. We don't dig into betting a lot on this show because it's daily fantasy focused, but
very different things.
Yes.
Hashtag game of skill.
Yes. Since this returned to March, we've seen favorites win. Again, I mentioned that like an hour and a half ago at this point, but like I'm not that interested in long shots this week.
I'm not either. Like in terms of
in terms of outrights, yeah.
And that does translate to DFS too, because I want to have fewer golfers in my lineup who are in that below the 95 cutoff. Like that.
You want win juice.
I want that win juice, and a lot of guys down there. I love Corey Connors, probably not going to win though. I want to maximize the win juice, and avoiding that range allows me to do so the best way I can. So win picks this week, I've got Rory McIlroy and Cameron Smith. You have Patrick Cantlay and Daniel Berger. I feel good about one of those 4 pulling it off for this week, although I've never felt bad about the win picks. So oh well, we'll see how that goes. That is all that we have here for today on the Players PGA DFS podcast. But of course, we are here every week on the numberFire Daily Fantasy Podcast feed, breaking down our favorite plays for our FanDuel for that week's event. So make sure you are subscribed to the numberFire Daily Fantasy Podcast feed. If you're watching over on YouTube, hit that like button, hit subscribe as well, because of course we have this podcast every week, 10 a.m. Eastern on the FanDuel YouTube page, live there. If you want to jump in the chat section there as well, always happy to try to answer questions as they roll in over there. Brandon, any final thoughts for you on this week's event before we close up shop for today? You're pointing at the wrong part of the screen, by the way. I'm trying to point to your Twitter handle.
No, I was pointing to subscribe, buddy.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Get out of here with that.
I can't quite get that far. Ooh.
I'd say embrace the chaos. And that's going to be key this week. Don't get overexposed to certain golfers. If you're playing one lineup, still try to be a little bit different and you don't have to be crazy to do it.
Right. Be different without being dumb. That's very easy to do in such a good field. I think that's the way I'd view it. All right. If people have questions for you on Twitter, where can they find you there?
At Gadula13, GDULA13.
And I am on Twitter at Jim Sannes, JIMSANNES. You can also follow the FanDuel Podcast Network at FanDuel Podcast. Big thank you to everyone for tuning in for this week. Good luck to you with your PGA DFS lineups. Go win yourself a big check of your own. We'll talk to you once again next week. This has been the Heat Check Fantasy Podcast, powered by numberFire.